Ever feel like you're juggling a million things at once? Exams, deadlines, relationships, maybe even a part-time job on top of it all.
Yeah, college can be a pressure cooker.
Definitely no shortage of stress for students these days. But what if there were ways to not just cope, but actually thrive?
Well, there might be. We're diving into a study today from the AYNA Clinical Psychology Journal.
Okay, AYNA Clinical Psychology Journal.
It looked at the effects of stress management training on Turkish college students.
So we're not talking about those like quick fix stress relievers?
Yep. This is about giving students long-term skills to really handle that pressure.
I like it. Proactive stuff.
And what's really cool is this study goes beyond just, reducing anxiety and stress. They also looked at self-efficacy.
Okay, so helping students believe in their own ability to handle whatever gets thrown at them.
Exactly.
I like that. Now, the study mentions college stress is a process, not just a simple cause and effect thing.
Right.
What does that even mean for like a brand new freshman stepping onto campus for the first time?
Well, it means stress isn't only about what's happening around you, like that first day of class or a giant stack of homework.
Right.
It's also about how you see those things and how you react.
Okay, so two students could have the same exam coming up.
Exactly. One might be like, challenge accepted, and the other's freaking out.
Totally.
The stress levels, how well they cope, totally different.
Makes sense. Now, this study focused on 200 psychology students. From a private university in Istanbul, they were split into two groups. One got the stress management training, the other didn't.
Right, a control group. Classic study setup.
But before we get to the results, we got to talk limitations, right? No study's perfect.
Oh, absolutely. And this one's no exception. Big one.
Yeah.
The whole thing happened right before finals week.
Oh, so everyone's already stressed to the max.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether they were in the training group or not, their baseline stress is probably through the roof.
So the training's effects might actually be even bigger than the results show.
Potentially, yeah. It's like trying to measure the impact of a fan in a hurricane.
Hard to tell what's doing what.
Right. It makes you think about how context really matters when you're looking at research.
For sure. Okay, limitations aside, let's get to the good stuff. Did anxiety go down?
It did, significantly, for the training group. And that lines up with a ton of other research out there.
So it's not just like a fluke or a placebo effect.
Right. It seems like there's something real going on here. And this is where understanding how these techniques work becomes so important.
Yeah, break it down for us. Why do these strategies actually help?
So a lot of the techniques they used, things like deep breathing and muscle relaxation, they directly affect how our bodies react to stress.
Okay.
Like they can slow your heart rate down, ease muscle tension. It's basically sending a signal to your brain saying, hey, we're safe.
Like hacking your own nervous system.
Kind of, yeah. But what about how stressed students felt overall, not just the physical stuff? Did the training help with that?
Yeah, did it change their perception of the stress?
There was a decrease, but it wasn't as dramatic. And this is where those final exams being so close probably played a role.
Right, even if you have the tools to manage anxiety, those big tests are still looming.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, if the study had been done in a calmer time, would the results have been even stronger?
Good point. The study also suggests the training might be better at dealing with like straight up anxiety versus just feeling generally overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Different types of stress might need different approaches.
Now, this study kept bringing up self-efficacy. What exactly did they find there?
So the group that got the training, they had a big jump in their self-efficacy, meaning they felt more confident in their ability to deal with stressful stuff.
Okay, but how did they actually measure that? Was it some complicated psychological test?
Actually, they kept it pretty simple. Students just rated their belief in their ability to handle stress on a scale from 0 to 10.
Interesting. Some people might say that's too basic. You know, a simple scale might miss some of the nuances of self-efficacy.
Yeah, that's fair. But on the other hand, it's easy to understand, easy to use. Maybe that helps students give more honest answers.
True. It's like that balance between getting super precise data and keeping things practical.
Exactly. Now you've got this group of students, they're stressed, they're learning these techniques. What did the actual training look like?
Yeah, give us the details.
So it was an 8-week program, pretty comprehensive. Each week focused on a different technique.
Nice.
They covered progressive muscle relaxation, breathing exercises, even mindfulness, and something called safe place visualization.
Sounds like they threw the whole stress management toolkit at them.
They did. And it's interesting because even with all those different techniques, students said some of them stood out more than others.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Which ones were the student favorites and why?
The top three, according to the students, were progressive muscle relaxation, breathing exercises, and that safe place visualization.
Huh. Those are all pretty different approaches, though, right?
Yeah, they are.
I wonder if there's something about them, some common thread that made them click with the students.
You might be onto something there. I think what those three have in common is they're all pretty easy to learn
Right.
and to actually use, like, in your everyday life.
Makes sense, especially for college students. They're busy, they don't need something that takes a ton of time or special equipment.
Exactly. It's like having a stress relief toolbox you can take
Yes,
anywhere.
I like that analogy. But I'm also curious, why do these techniques work, like on a deeper level? Is it just distraction, or is there something more going on?
Oh, it's definitely more than just distraction.
Hmm.
These techniques, they tap into that whole mind-body connection.
Right.
We help us get our bodies calmed down and shift our focus away from all those anxious thoughts, like deep breathing. That can actually activate your parasympathetic nervous system.
Which is the one that, like, chills us out.
Exactly. It's like flipping a switch in your brain from fight or flight to rest and digest.
I love that we're figuring out the science behind these practices. It's not just like some mystical thing anymore.
It's really cool. And it's not just about feeling better in the moment. If you do these techniques regularly, it can actually rewire your brain to be better at handling stress long term.
So it's like building mental muscle.
Exactly. The more you practice, the stronger you get. Now, the study also looked at whether students actually use these techniques outside of the training sessions.
Yeah, because learning something's one thing, but actually making it part of your life, that's the real challenge.
For sure. So they found that 76% of the students said they did use the techniques on their own.
Wow, that's pretty high. Shows they were really engaged. But what about that other 24%? Any clues about why they didn't use the techniques?
Well, we have to remember, change is hard. Learning a new skill is step one, but actually weaving it into your daily life.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. Some students might have had trouble sticking with it, or maybe they just had a hard time applying the techniques in real situations.
Like knowing you should eat healthy and exercise, but then pizza and Netflix happen.
Uh-huh. Yeah, something like that. And some students specifically said they wished the training groups were smaller.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe they felt kind of lost in the crowd, or like they didn't get enough individual support to really make those techniques stick.
That makes sense. Group dynamics can definitely affect learning. Some people love big groups, others need that one-on-one attention.
And this ties back to one of the study's limitations. They even mentioned that the lack of personalized attention might have made the training less effective for some students.
So even with positive results, there's always more to explore, more to improve.
Absolutely. And we should be clear, this was just one study with a specific group of students in a very specific context. Can't just assume it applies to everyone.
Right, context is key. But it does give us some valuable insights. Like, it seems like teaching students these concrete skills can help them not just cope with stress, but really feel more in control.
Yeah, I think that's a big takeaway. And it raises an even bigger question. What if we went beyond just reducing the bad stuff, the anxiety and stress?
Okay, I'm listening.
What if we focused on boosting well-being, not just surviving, but actually thriving?
Now you're talking. So not just fighting against stress, but building ourselves up to be stronger, more resilient.
Exactly. Imagine interventions that not only reduce stress, but actually cultivate positive emotions, make people more resilient, give them a stronger sense of purpose.
Okay, now I'm getting really excited. This could change everything, not just surviving, but flourishing.
That's the goal. And this study, I think it gives us a little peek into what might be possible. Like if we combine that ancient wisdom with what science is teaching us now.
We could empower people to live healthier, happier, more meaningful lives.
Absolutely.
So for everyone listening out there, what does this all mean for you? If you're feeling overwhelmed by stress, college student or not?
There are tools out there that can help.
And even if you're not feeling super stressed right now, think of this as a call to action.
What if instead of waiting for stress to hit, you invested in your well-being now?
What if you made those simple practices like deep breathing or visualization part of your daily routine? Like brushing your teeth?
It might sound too good to be true, but the research suggests those practices can actually change your brain, make you more resilient to stress in the long run.
So our challenge to you is this. Experiment. Try incorporating one of the techniques from this study into your own life.
See what happens. You might be surprised at how much of a difference it makes.
And if you're curious to learn more about this study, we've got a link in the show notes.
Don't be shy, click that link, dive in.
But before you go, one last thought. This study focused on teaching students to use these techniques when they're already stressed.
Right.
What if we took it a step further? Made these practices a part of our everyday lives, like a preventative measure.
Interesting thought. Almost like an immunity booster, but for our minds.
Exactly. Could that kind of proactive approach actually build a buffer against stress?
It's a great question.
And it's something we'll definitely be exploring more in future episodes. So stay tuned and keep diving deep. Instead of just reacting to stress when it pops up, we're talking about building something solid beforehand.
Right, shifting from putting out fires to, I don't know, fireproofing the whole
Oh,
building.
exactly. So for everyone listening, think about how you can actually use this stuff.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try those techniques the students liked. See what works for you.
And it's not about being perfect, right? Small steps can make a big difference.
Totally. And remember, you're not alone in this. There are so many people out there trying to manage stress, build well-being,
Yeah, share your experiences, good and bad. Learn from each other.
and most importantly, never stop learning. There's always something new to discover about well-being, how our minds work.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
So until next time, keep diving deep and stay curious.